My name is Adriana Neuenschwander, and I'm a current instructor at the English Language Institute on UMBC's campus. And today I'm going to talk to you about a course I developed for English Language Institute students on academic culture in the United States. So, before we begin, I want you to think about the first time you started as a student in university. Probably it was much different from your high school experience. There were more expectations, but at the same time, there was less guidance, and the stakes were higher. And most likely, you had some trouble adjusting, although it does vary from student to student. Now imagine that you're also in a different culture and you're interacting daily with a language that you're not used to. Maybe some of you don't have to imagine this. Maybe you did study abroad, so you actually experienced the difficulties. It's challenging, and it can be so challenging that it can cause students to struggle and often drop out of university. In fact, I found some statistics. In UMBC freshmen last year, there was a 5% dropout rate. And there are some studies that show that 42% of freshmen and sophomores never make it to graduation. So clearly it's a struggle, and the challenges are even larger for international students, since they're dealing with a new language and culture, unexpected rules, and different classroom requirements. Studies have shown that international students often don't feel at home or connected to American universities. These ideas were brought to my attention last year when the English Language Institute experienced unique challenges with a group of students. We had about 30 students who all had a scholarship from their home country, and they all came to the English Language Institute at the same time. These students faced a lot of challenges as they tried to adjust to American academic culture. They were often significantly tardy to class. They showed a great disrespect for our teachers, especially our female teachers. They even struggled understanding where the appropriate places to smoke on campus were. So they were disruptive on class, and ultimately they were unsatisfied with their experience at the English Language Institute. And within the first semester, about, I believe, 12 of them transferred to other institutions. So you can see that the problem was threefold. One, the students didn't like the ELI and they were so disgruntled with it that they left. Two, the problem is the teachers. The teachers had an atmosphere in the classroom that was not conducive to learning because of the disruptions caused by these students because they didn't understand the expectations that were on them in studying at American universities. And then third, as an institution, this was a problem. Enrollment is down at academic English language institutions across the country. So when we have students transferring out, it's an even bigger problem because we need all of the students we can get. So like I said, the problem is threefold. The solution to this problem is to develop an academic culture class. And the goals of this program are threefold. One, it gives students an in-depth look at academic culture in the United States, and it allows them to compare it to their own culture. So these students can really understand why we have the rules that we do in universities, and they can also understand the consequences for not following these rules. Two, it creates opportunities for students and teachers at the ELI to get to know each other in a less formal setting. And I'll talk in a minute about why that's important. And finally, this class would provide a chance for students to learn about the resources available to them on UMBC's campus. As students at the ELI, they are also students at UMBC, and so they have lots of resources available to them that often they don't use because they don't know about them. So this class would give them a chance to learn about these resources and how to access them. So before I delve deeper into the class, I'd like to go over the needs assessment of the different players. So first, we have the English Language Institute, which is located in Baltimore County on UMBC's campus. This institution offers intensive and academic ESL to international students. What the English Language Institute needs to do is both increase enrollment and retain current students. Like I said, enrollment is down across the nation, and we're feeling it pretty hard at the ELI. We used to have about 200 students enrolled at the ELI, now we have less than 100. So in order to increase enrollment, we need to be offering more programs for the students. And in order to retain the students, we need to make sure that the students at the ELI feel comfortable and feel at home. So the ELI students, we have about 93 students from 21 different countries, ages 17 to 41. These students are coming to the ELI for a range of reasons, but most of them want to pursue their education at American universities after they finish at the ELI. So most of them are looking into higher ed. These students need to learn English in a place they feel at home. Research has found that international students are more successful when they make friendships on campus and are supported by teachers and are involved in extracurriculars. So they need to be aware of the resources available to them on UMBC's campus. And I was actually speaking to a staff member at the ELI who said students are going to stay at an institution that they like. So they need to like the ELI. Finally, we have the ELI teachers. There are 13 teachers, all of whom possess MA or PhD degrees, and we have about 3 graduate assistants who also sometimes teach and are working to achieve their master's degrees. ELI teachers need students to respect them and follow their rules in class in order to create a conducive atmosphere in the class that allows students to learn to the best of their abilities. So now I would like to talk about the course overview. The course will be meeting for 7 weeks, which that encompasses one session at the ELI. And it will be a mixture of lectures, discussions, guest speakers, and on-campus field trips. The course meets 1.5 hours once a week. Week 1 is just the introduction, and like I said, a large part of this class is allowing students to really examine their own culture and see where they're coming from, and then using that as a basis to compare it to American culture. So the first week is just the introduction, and it'll encompass activities and discussions, allowing students to examine their own culture. Week 2 is a project that I'm excited about. The theme is teachers and students. So in this class, we will be inviting all of the teachers who are available at the ELI to come in and get to know the students. And we're going to do this through a variety of ways. One way is having the teachers do some get to know you games where they'll write some fun facts about themselves and the students will have to guess what teacher it is, and then the teacher can talk about it more. Another activity we'll do is having the students write questions for the teachers. And these questions can be for a teacher specifically, or they can be about teaching in general in the United States. There will be a lecture and a discussion in this week, and the lecture will primarily focus on student-centered learning, since that's the the majority of the way that teachers teach in the United States. It's very student-centered, and students from other countries might not be used to that. So we'll be talking about student-centered learning and participatory learning and giving the reasons behind that. And again, allowing students to talk to each other and discuss the differences and think about the differences between learning in the United States and learning in their home country. Week 3 is a field trip on UMBC's campus, and it will be all about introducing the students to the Retriever Activity Center, which if you're not familiar, that's the gym on UMBC's campus, and the Event Center. And we'll have some guest speakers and show students how to sign up for intramurals, how to sign up for events, and just giving them a chance to walk around and explore these places that are available to them. Week 4 is classroom expectations, and it will be talking about explicit and implicit rules in the classroom. And I'll go more in depth about week 4 in a minute. Week 5 is another on-campus field trip to the library where students will take a tour and learn research tips and learn more about plagiarism and how to avoid it. At the library, there's actually a research librarian who's really interested in working with international students, so we're excited to make that connection. Week 6 is all about making friends and joining groups. So we'll have a short lecture and a discussion about appropriate ways to get to know people in the United States. And then we'll have representatives from groups on campus come in and talk to our students about joining those groups and what the students can get out of those groups. Week 7 is project presentation, and I'll be talking about the project in a minute, and an end of session party where we will invite the staff and teachers at the ELI to enjoy some food and drink with our students. Now I'd like to take a couple minutes and demonstrate a module that the students will be working with in this course. So this is Module 4, and it's all about classroom expectations. To begin with, I will have the students get into groups and brainstorm a list of rules that they are used to having in their home countries or they had in their last classroom experience. So they'll make this list of rules, and then after several minutes of brainstorming and writing it down, I'll have each group present it to the class. And that will be the basis from where we'll start to then talk about expectations for most American classrooms. I will have a short lecture on common classroom rules and how they actually always correspond with a specific American value. For example, being on time to class corresponds with the American idea that time is a commodity and it's something you can own, you can grasp, you can waste it. It's important how you use it. Another rule that we'll talk about in depth is cheating or plagiarism. And this goes into the American idea that individuals can own ideas, words, and knowledge. And it also gets into some ideas about individualistic cultures and collectivistic cultures. So we'll talk about the differences in that and how that relates to plagiarism. And then the third rule that we'll talk about is participation during class and how that relates to the Americans' idea that students' knowledge is important and, again, a learner-centered classroom. This is a slide that I will use for teaching about time. We'll start by talking about all of these different idioms Americans have about time, and then have a discussion about why Americans view wasting time as a sign of disrespect. After I talk about time, plagiarism, and participating in class, I'll have my students do a short think, pair, share where they talk about what the consequences for breaking these rules should be, and then we'll compare them to what the consequences actually are. And we'll note the differences. Obviously, the consequence for always being late to class is much different than the consequence for plagiarizing. So we'll talk about the differences in the consequences and why we have those differences. After that, we'll talk about some implicit rules that often aren't spoken in class, but many Americans follow them. And those are little things like eye contact, humor, interrupting each other, things like this. Finally, the class will end by having students get into groups, reading these scenarios, and creating role plays and skits, which they will then present for the group. So I'll give you a few moments to look over these scenarios. Now I would like to talk about the evaluation plan. As with any course, the instructor should be informally evaluating students as the course goes along. The instructor should be checking to see that the students are understanding American culture and are able to compare it to their own culture. But we do have a more formal way of evaluating this course as well. Starting on week 4, I'll be assigning the students a project where they have to make a video that shows some of the differences between their home culture and American academic culture. I'll give them some examples that I found on YouTube of videos that students have made, but they get to choose the different formats. So they might choose a video that are like things I wish I had known before I moved to the United States. Or maybe the title of their video could be the differences between my home country and the United States. Again, focusing on academics in their home country versus academics in the US. So however they decide to show the differences, they do have to create a video and then upload it to YouTube, and the videos will be presented on the last day of class. So I will give the students time in each class to work on it, but they'll also be expected to work on it outside of class as well. And it should be a fun project. I'll encourage my students to use humor and have fun with this and use their creativity. The class will also be evaluated through the use of a survey that the students will take at the end of the class, just asking them to share their thoughts on the usefulness of the class and changes they would like to make it better. Finally, I'm quickly going to talk about the budget. The first part of it is the development. I worked about 40 hours developing this class, so at $40 an hour, that gets to $1,600. The second part is the implementation. Instructor pay for 10.5 hours of teaching and 3.5 hours of prep at $40 an hour. Food and supplies for the final party is another thing that we'll need money for, we'll need to budget for. However, fees to the university, actually, there will be no fees to the university because since this class is running from the English Language Institute, we have resources available to us whenever we need them. So we don't have to pay for rooms, computers, projectors, or things like that. Those are just things that we already have. So in total, the budget will be $2,372.50. And that's it for this project. I really appreciate you listening to this, and I hope that you've gained some insight. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And again, I've enjoyed talking to you about this, and I really enjoyed developing it. Thank you.